Patriotism is one of the cornerstones of citizenship education here in the United States. In a country whose population is founded on generations of immigrants, an outside observer can see why it's vital to our government to indoctrinate and assimilate these newcomers as soon as possible. But how is this stance affecting our citizens in a world whose governments are increasingly politically and economically interdependent? How do we prepare our citizens not only for the responsibilities of our democratic society, but to better understand, respect, and tolerate citizens of foreign countries? Global citizenship education has long been a keystone of many foreign education systems. If most of the world is teaching it, why aren't we? Don't you think the United States is the best country in the world? It's what we're taught very early on, right? But what are we the best at? What qualifies us to use this phrase? It's incredibly subjective when you stop and think about it. Are we the freest society on earth? Do we pay the least taxes? Are we the healthiest in the world? Do we live to be the oldest? What qualifies us to be the best? My point with these questions is to highlight one of the main obstacles to global citizenship education here in the U.S. As one of the most tolerant societies on earth, we can't tolerate inferiority in any regards to our national psyche.
Traditional citizenship education in the United States is inherently state-centered because it overemphasizes teaching and learning about government. In a pre-globalized society, such as during the Cold War, this state-centered concept of citizenship was successfully and appropriately taught in our schools, emphasizing patriotism and basic responsibilities of the American citizen, such as voting. However, that concept of national citizenship education is becoming, while still important, outdated. Consequently, it must be supplemented with global citizenship education in today's globalized society. An important aspect of global citizenship education that can really interest students is human rights issues and their effect on diplomacy. 50 years ago, this was only a prominent issue for Americans on a national scale. Today, though, the power and influence of today's media and our ability to go online and see what is happening in real time in other parts of the world has made global human rights an important part of elections, legislation, and other aspects of our own national citizenship education. Therefore, in some parts of the United States, teachers are beginning to feature a global citizenship education more prominently in their classrooms.
So now you might be asking yourself, how can I make a difference and turn my students into conscientious global citizens? Economics is a branch of social studies that has been teaching our students international cooperation for decades. The current economic situation in Greece is a perfect introduction and segue to show students how dependent on one another nations truly are. For centuries, European countries have sought advantages over their neighbors, either militarily or economically, and yet today a majority of those same countries are affiliated with the supranational European Union. International entities such as the EU and NATO continue to expand to safeguard shared international priorities. By not incorporating global citizenship into curriculum and standards, we are handicapping our students with regards to important skills and values that will become more necessary to compete economically in the years to come.